Sorry about that, we are back live. The Streamlabs decided to have a moment and to not work. So we are back live. Apologies for that slight delay there, but we are back and it is coming towards the end of qualifying. 30 odd seconds left on the clock. Carlos in the pits, Ben in the pits, Will Freeman in the pits, Mike Matthews in the pits, as is Sky, Dennis Newman, Tobias Hoffer, all in the pit lane then. So Kelly, these guys aren't going to get another run in. Overtaker is just about to start his final flying lap. He stays currently P7. Michael Harris down in 11th, going to get one more. Matt Wright will be pressed for time for him to get one more. But already, Kelly, we're seeing drivers bailing out with a lap to go.
Yes, they think they've done enough, and Carlos sitting at the top there. I'd probably bail out of that as well. To be fair, I'd be over the moon with that. But yes, indeed, and we're back up and running now. Matt's put 50p in the meter. If you don't know what I mean by that, Google it, kids. So we are back up and running again, and I just wanted to touch back on quickly. I don't know as much is going to change in this session now, to be fair, but I wanted to touch back on the 24-hour of the Nordschleife in May, which we're doing for cancer research. That's the first bank holiday in May, and we've done an event like this before, and raised over £1,200 for charity. As Dan bails into the pits, he's done for this session. He's not going to go any quicker. We've done this before. We had absolute ball doing it. It was great fun, and we're hoping that you can join us on whatever level. You can join in and be a driver. We would love to see extra commentators come and help us in the in the comms box, or you can just get involved by watching along and donating to the cause on the actual weekend. I will be here in and out. I'm not going to enter a car, unfortunately. I've got work commitments on the Saturday night, but I will certainly be on comms at some point throughout the 24 hours, as much as I possibly can, as will Matt. Will be there all the way through. I take it you will be, Matt. You're not going to drive it.
Possibly driving and doing a stint of commentary, we'll see.
Well, there we go, look. Yeah, and we did something similar to that last time, myself, Matt, and Dan. Oh no, you didn't race the other one.
No, I didn't race. I did the full.
Me and Dan.
You and Dan shared the race, and then did full comms with myself at the end of it, which was we was the only. I think we was the only 3 people to do the full 24-hour.
That stayed up, stayed up for the full 24 hours. I don't think I've ever quite got over it, to be fair. I think I'm still suffering now.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so tired, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Christ, when I was younger, you know, an all-nighter was easy, but nowadays I'm just happy to get all the way through the night without having to get out for a wee. Yeah. So, you know, all-nighters are a bit difficult. So, but we would love you to get involved on whatever level.
Yeah, indeed we would. It's going to be a fantastic event coming up. Get a team in, maximum of 4 drives. Obviously, all will be explained. More details will be coming out. Sign-ups will be going out this week. If you are an Xbox driver, there is certain guidelines you're going to have to follow and do for us to get the sign-ups accurate and correct. If you struggle with that, don't hesitate but to DM myself and we'll get that sorted and followed up to you as soon as possible. But it was, Kelly, that of Tardock, Carlos and Sylph making it a Mustang 1, 2, 3 again before Dan Davis, Ben Ruck, Will Freedman, Overtaker, Cloud and Mike Matthews, Ian McGowan, Michael Harris, Matt Wright, Darren Yo, Sky Schundlemeyer, Dennis Newman, Tobias Hoffer, Ben Hoopit, Kieran O'Reilly, Skunky Viper rounded out the rear.
Yep.
It's going to be an interesting one because the Mustangs didn't seem to have much in race 1. Dan and Ben seem to have a bit. O'Reilly's going to be interesting to watch from the back. I think this is just going to make for an instant classic.
Absolutely, yeah. Did I miss something? Tardock's on pole. Did he go quicker at the end?
He went quicker when we was faffing with the changing of the streams.
There we go. That's why I missed it.
10 seconds.
So we got Tardock on pole, Carlos and Sylph, as I said, Mustang 1, 2, 3 up front. Let's see if they race off into the distance. Let's hope not. Let's hope that someone gives them a run for their money. And there's plenty of people to do that. Dan Davis, Ben Rook, Will Freedman, Overtaker, Cloud and Mike Matthews, all these lot give them a run as we are away on the formation lap. So one formation lap, that's the way we start things off. These guys will be on cold tyres. They will be doing a routine that they've worked out all by themselves on how to warm the tyres. You'll see a lot of brake lights on the formation lap, where they're kind of standing on the brakes, trying to get the brakes nice and hot, but also transfer that weight into the tyres, because you want to try and get your tyres up to pressure and nice and warm as you go into the first corner, flat scat with 20 other drivers. So they'll be going through a routine right now of getting those brakes warm, getting those tyres warm, getting the head in the right place, and getting ready for this race.
Getting ready for this race, indeed. Will Friedman now, after that race 1 win, took his 11th win of his career at SimPlay Motorsport. He did his 50th race start, actually, on Tuesday night. He's now tied with Emo Guy, Little Leach and Holty. There we go, speaking of gamer tags. Emo Guy, Holty and Little Leach. 3 blasts from the past in terms of wins there. If you're Tardok, it's another pole position to your name, and that puts you on 5 already this season. That ties you with, here's some blast for the past. Richie Michelle, obviously newbie. Daz Automatic is Darren Yo. Emo Guy, James Ash, Ben Parkey, Daniel Francis with 5 pole positions. There we go.
There is a name from the past, Daniel Francis. Yeah, that was another one of my nemesis. And there has been so many.
Interesting fella.
Interesting fella, yeah.
I don't know what he's up to nowadays. Either way, Kelly, race winner?
Well, not Daniel Francis.
No.
Tardok.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go Sylph. I think Sylph might do it. Well, let's wait and see. Now, I have the beautiful timing screen next to me, thanks to the SimBot app, in which I'm not going to give anything away, but I get to see some of the fuel that drivers are on at the end of their first flying lap. So it's going to be interesting. Now, obviously, it means nothing in terms of where the car is. Everybody's got a 25-second pit stop, bar a change of tyres. Let's not forget that. But while we have a moment, let's mention it for the first time this season in Pro. Please head to our description and check out our wonderful sponsors, that of Design Manchester, who are producers of vinyl graphics, laser engraved gifts, mugs, printed clothing and much more, including SimPlay Motorsport merchandise. Head over to their Facebook page, facebook.com/Design Manchester. While you're there, also head over to Audiosport, manufacturer of VW Transporter T4 audio solutions and styling products. Head over to www.audiosport.co.uk and then also their Facebook group. Links are all in the description, as well as go and check out the Audiosport YouTube channel and drop a subscribe on please. That one. Keep your eyes out in the description. Very soon the donation page for the Just Giving event for the Cancer Research event will be going in there. That'll be there very, very soon. And also, Kelly, I suppose we can get on to the talk of what was announced just before we went live in terms of PlayStation games and what is possibly coming for the console of Xbox and PlayStation. But talks of next season will begin this week and into next week. There is the rumour of a world tour, every track on the calendar, bar the Nordschleife, with even a mid-season break of 4 weeks. Interesting stuff that's going to be spoken about this week. So keep your eyes peeled on our social media, which is Facebook and Instagram, as well as check out our TikTok. Go and drop us a like, follow us on them platforms as well, to keep up to date with all things SimPlay Motorsport, as we, Kelly, are about to get ready for this second race of the evening. And round 10, 3 races away from the halfway stage of the season. It's a Mustang domination at the moment, if the championship's anything to go by. But how will round 10 go? We are green and go here for the second race of the evening, and Dan Davies gets a heck of a start, but he's going to get boxed in by all 3 Ford Mustangs. Will Freeman kind of follows Dan as well, as one of the Mustangs very, very wide, and Dan could get sandwiched here. Tardok pulling away already, and it's Dan in the middle of... Oh, no, he's not. He's backed out of it, should I say. Now a slow Mustang through the first parts of Maggots. He's gone off, so Dan Davies going to be able to capitalise on that, as the Mustang now rejoins to the outside of Dan. Will Freeman's with him as overtaker, and Ben have a bit of argy-bargy coming through Maggots and Beckett's. Mike Matthews is races round, I can see in the background. Not sure who that is with. It's Jamal Clouden who's with him. So both of them there already, look, dropping down the order and having a moment on their own. Overtaker, has he been let through by Ben there? I'm not sure. I saw him give him a flash of the lights. I'm not sure if Overtaker's been let through by Ben there. Either way, more chaos in the background with a sliding Ford Mustang of Hupert. Newman was wide as well. There's Skunky and Viper, Hupert and O'Reilly, who have all had qualifying bans coming through the order. As Skunky and Viper very late on the brakes. Now O'Reilly looking to attack the Bentley and slots back into the middle. But Jamal and Mike already in an hour-long race. It's a dismal start.
Absolutely, and if they had if they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. Dan with moving up the order, so did Freeman. Battle of the Porsches. Freeman's on the back of Dan at the moment, who's not let those Mustangs get away. Carlos had a bit of a moment through Beckett and went onto the grass, so he lost a couple of places. But again, he's now 5th place and in sight of all the leaders. As Tardok starts to stretch his legs, has got a second now over Silth as we come round to be the end of the first lap.
We do come around to complete the end of the first lap. Clouden's got back onto the rear of the pack. Mike Matthews hasn't yet at the moment. O'Reilly, just watching him close to the back of the Bentley, weaving down the straight to get some heat into them tyres. As Skunky's going side by side with that, Dennis Newman into Brooklands, now Luffield. Clouden's just getting on the back of the pack. And like you've just said there, Kelly, Dan keeping touch with the Mustangs. Hasn't that been the case, though, at the start of every race too? It's how it ends, I suppose, isn't it? Because Dan and the Porsches, and O'Reilly for that comment as well, has always sort of stuck with them in the early days, but then them Ford seem to grow into the race. You feel here the Porsche's got a bit more of momentum in this race and at this track over the Ford. So how will Freeman and Dan Davis react to this one? Well, at the minute, Dan's 4 tenths off the back of Sil. Freeman's within 3 tenths of Dan. Bit of a gap back to Carlos. Ben's and next closest to a driver of Overtaker, but he's got McGowan and Matt Wright with him, with Michael Harris and Darren Yeo, who's just touched the grass. Horrible run through Maggots and Beckett's there. Here comes Hooper, flicks the car out aggressively there, and he's going to go side by side with Darren Yeo down the hanger straight in towards Stowe. There you go, for the second time of racing. Darren Yeo up the inside. Hooper can try and hang this round the outside, keep the nose there maybe for Club, and he does just about within the track limits there as well. 2 wheels on the curb, and Daz may not be too worried about this, because round the outside you can do it better, but Hupert gets the move done. Great racing from Hupert, and Sky taps the back of Daz. Daz hangs on to it, and Hoffer now comes through, and a flash of the lights from Darren Yeo.
And rightly so. Sky got into the back of him. O'Reilly's just gone round Daz, avoiding action, went off track to get round him. So touch on the naughty side there.
Touch on the naughty side, or you know, we go back to Spa where Overtaker took Dan fully off track. O'Reilly was kind of avoiding a slow rejoining Daz.
No, I was talking about Sky incident.
Oh, right, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, not O'Reilly being off track. I didn't see if he had to avoid.
Oh, hang on. The 777 of Viper is slow down the straight. He's got some damage here down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Not sure what's happened to him. Just saw the yellow flag.
Yes, indeed. O'Reilly's getting very racy with Hoffer, and Sky isn't far behind. Far in front of these two. So these two having quite the scrap at the moment. Still all close company up front. Tardok's extended his lead half a second, but then Silth, Davis, Friedman and Carlos all still very, very close. And a bit of a watch and breathe from Overtaker. He's a couple of seconds behind. You can see him in the distance. Needs to just pull up behind the back of these, and he might get that opportunity very shortly, because Friedman's starting to struggle a bit through that section.
Viper's in the pits then, as Dan Davis is, like you say, Friedman's struggling through that section. Dan Davis did lose a bit of time over the start line to Silth. There we go, he's lost another 10th, and it's Carlos who's making gains on Will Friedman at the moment. So this is now an interesting section for Dan. Can he pull away from Friedman and Friedman Carlos while these two are having a little bit of a squabble? This is ample opportunity, Kelly, for him to just pull away from these two.
Absolutely. That's exactly what he wants to do. So Carlos looking racy, Friedman having to defend. It gives Dan the opportunity to get away. Chris R in the chat saying Robbins racing. Chloe Davis saying go Dan. Chloe being Dan's girlfriend, so that's why she's so keen that Dan does well. Got quite a support, doesn't he, that young man?
Yeah.
As Friedman goes quite deep into the village section and around the loop. Carlos again.
Oh, Jamal's off. Sorry, Kelly. Jamal's gone off at form, all on his own. The 99's got a yellow flag. That's Overtaker, who's been off the road. He's tumbling down the order, and he rejoins safely. That is at the link. So I'm not sure what's happened to Overtaker there. He's got damage on the rear. He's been hit on the rear as Overtaker. You see that on the splitter. As I was just about to say that Daz is putting Hoffer under pressure. Newman's putting Daz under pressure. 3 wide into Brooklyn's. Hoffer dropped a nose and a slow Overtaker. And Newman clatters into the side of Overtaker. Taker was very, very slow coming to the apex of the corner, but he has been clattered. Jamal clouded in that, manages to make up a few places. This has brought Mike Matthews back onto the rear of them as well, but Newman and Overtaker there in the wars, and whatever damage Overtaker had, Kelly, to that rear diffuser, he's now got a little bit more. Look, you see a few scrapes, and look, that bumper just parted ways from the boot lid.
Yeah, I think...
Oh, it's round. Oh, Kelly.
Yeah, that's damaged, isn't it? That's damaged. I think that was a day late and $1 short from Newman myself. Do you know what I mean? He came in very, very hot. Don't think he quite realised how quickly he was getting in there. Overtaker can't keep car in straight line. I can see a retirement happening here, and there we go, back to the pits.
Well, now that isn't game over for Overtaker. It will be 2 minutes plus whatever damage, so he can get back out on track. So this is going to be interesting now to see what will happen, Kelly, in terms of, will he stay there, will he come back out? If he doesn't come back out, it will be a retirement, and it will be a qualifying ban going into Kyle Army at the mid-session point of the season, which would also... Has Overtaker had a retirement this season? I know Viper has. He's in the pits. He's obviously got to come back out. Retirement tally, no, just 1 for Viper, 2 for Viper. So if this is a retirement for Viper today, not only will that be a 3rd qualifying ban, that'll be minus 25 championship points.
Ouch. Viper not having a great season, is he? He's probably had one of the worst lucks of all at the moment. Up front, Tardok again just squeezing away from Silth a little bit. The MSA Racing boys, they might have some team orders in place, and Tardok's away, and Silth's not going to give him too much of a hard time. Dan's still within 3/4 of a second of Silth up front, but Will Freeman still close enough to be reading the badges on the back of that Porsche of Dan's, and Carlos again still in 5th. Ben with a little bit of work to do, just to grab back onto the back of these top 5. I think this is himself in play.
I think, Kelly, we're going to have to ask the question: did Ben hit Overtaker? Because Overtaker had rear diffuser damage, and Ben was the car behind him in the first place. So we're going to have to wait and see what happened there. We're currently watching Sky Schundelmeyer.
Chris will tell us.
Chris will probably tell us in the chat. We're currently watching Sky Schundelmeyer. He's in a fight with O'Reilly at the minute. And I'm just going to drop back down to Darren Yeo, who's got Jamal Clouden there, and Tobias Hoffer has Mike Matthews for company. So we'll keep our eyes on all these battles. Dan's dropped now to a 2nd off the back of Silth. So Dan's had a bit of a horrid first sector.
O'Reilly going up the inside of Sky Schundelmeyer. And they touch. Schundelmeyer comes across the track. And O'Reilly's been picked up by someone else. Oh, he'll be happy again. I think it's Skunky in that one as well. So
Matt Wright's been caught up, Kelly. Sorry, just as the camera pans around, Matt Wright, he's been in the wall massive somewhere. The boot lid is open. The bonnet lid is open, on that Nissan. So he's got some big damage. Where did Schundelmeyer end up? He carried on going.
11th.
What happened, Kelly? Just talk us through it, because we jumped on board just as the incident happened.
I was on board with O'Reilly, and Schundelmeyer and O'Reilly came together. I was on board, as I said, with O'Reilly, so hard to see whose fault it was, but that put O'Reilly round, and Skunky collected, I believe. That was kind of how I saw it.
So there we go then.
So handbags again, and trouble for O'Reilly and Skunky. They just seem to always be in the thick of it, don't they?
Yeah, and Michael Clouden's down the order as well. Overtaker and Dennis Newman have returned to the track. Viper hasn't yet, so that is a bonus to see there for them to at least to get back out on the circuit. And they didn't actually go, it looks like, a lap down. So that's pretty good for them to not be a lap down at the minute. Jamal Clouden has got past out of Darren Yeo. Will Freeman kind of ebbing and flowing between. Dan's definitely there, and again, we go back to them Ford Mustangs and what you said earlier in the broadcast. Dan was holding touch with the Mustangs as he's done all season. Now it seems like them Fords are starting to pull away from Dan Davis. Freeman and Carlos isn't doing a lot here. Matt Wright's in the pits. Carlos isn't doing as much as I thought here. If the other two are this quick, why isn't he? Yeah, but the Mustang compared to Porsche in a straight line, look, Will can easily defend that. Dan kind of sat... He's pretty comfortable at the minute, is Dan Davis. He's not really under too much pressure.
Yeah, he's in a bit of a no man's land, really, isn't he? He's not under pressure too much from Will. Will's probably looking in his mirrors down the straight to see Carlos coming at him at a rate of knots. But yeah, Dan can't really get onto the back of the Mustangs, and he's not being pressured too much by Friedman at the moment. But again, are these guys just playing smart, Matt?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, it's not all done in the first half of the race. We're not even 10 minutes in yet. You know, well, sorry, we're just over 10 minutes in. You know, and there's still a lot of racing to be done. It's not all won in the first 10 minutes.
No.
Or the first corner, as some people tried to win in the first corner.
Plenty of people try that. Ben has got damage. Just got on board with Ben because he's got a fight with McGowan. Ben has got damage on the front splitter, Kelly, of his Aston Martin. Now, 2 and 2 together. Overtaker's rear diffuser, Ben's front splitter. They was battling on track. That would indicate, you know, not that good at maths, but hey, we can put that one together. Yeah, I would hazard to guess that Ben has maybe then hit the back of Overtaker at some point in this race. Matt right now is going to go a lap down on track.
Although, sorry, mate. Yeah, I'm just thinking about that incident. The one with who was it? Newman.
Yeah.
There was another car there in proximity, wasn't there? When it got hit, was Ben there and thereabouts?
No. So that was Newman, Hoffer, and Daz. So this was as Overtaker had rejoined from the off. If Ben has hit Taker, that was before. That was at the link. This was all at Brooklands and Luffield with Hoffer, Daz and Newman. Newman tried to cut the inside of Hoffer and Daz. Back to the Porsches then at the minute. Dan has, you know, kind of kept around that 1.5, 1.6 mark to Sylph, so not let Sylph get any further away. But Friedman's dropped Carlos and got closer to Dan. That's now... There you go. That's how close it was. Will was in the boot lid of the Porsche. And Dan's done really well to keep all that, because also he hits the curb, and that curb is a killer.
Absolutely, Dan, he's done very well to keep that all moving in a straight line. But has he got damaged now? That's the question. Will just lost his braking point there, or whatever he did. Yeah, I was on board with that. So got a face full at the back end of Dan's Porsche.
Chris saying that Ben says Overtaker seemed to almost completely come to a stop and hit his rear. Now, I can sort of say, all right, maybe that's the case, because when we look back to that Dennis Newman incident, Overtaker was very slow at Brooklands.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll see what happens. I assume these tickets are probably going to go in on these drivers, and we'll see what happens from there. Ian McGowan, seventh place, 4 tenths off the back of Ben. Hoopert's gaining on him. Hoopert's quietly coming through the field. Remember, he started at the back of the pack. O'Reilly's recovering after a few moments. He's 2 seconds off the back of Hoffer. Mike's got past Hoffer and he's trying to hunt down Darren Yeo. Jamal Cloudon's on the back of Sky Shundelmeyer. I suppose we could go down and see that fight for a moment or two. You see the scuffs on that left-hand side of Sky's car. That'll be where him and O'Reilly's had a coming together. And Jamal Cloudon, well, yes, look, he's looking like he's going to make overtakes, but for 10th place, is it really good enough as he comes into Cop's corner? Can't overtake there, says the Red Bull team principal, and Jamal thinks better of it.
Yes, indeed. They're in very close company, aren't they? As they go side by side into Beckett's.
That's brave.
Yeah, Cloudon thinks a little better of it, backs out of that one. Lost him a little bit of time. Might have been better just following Sky through and then trying to get him down the straight.
O'Reilly's round again. Yellow flag, Kieran O'Reilly on the entrance to Maggotts and Beckett's, and he's got some front end damage on that car. And I tell you what, for some of these drivers this season, O'Reilly skunky, like you said. If it doesn't rain, it pours.
Yeah. And there's no sunshine on a dog's arse these nights, is there?
No, there isn't. Very cloudy here at Silverstone today. Weather's looking interesting for next week. Thunderstorms around at the moment from what we can see at Kyalami, in South Africa. So that's an interesting one to see there. Is Sky still ahead then of that of Jamal Cloud? This is actually the closest fight on the circuit at the moment. Dan's also pulled that gap back down to Sylph, but Friedman's also pulled the gap back down to Dan and has also pulled away from Carlos. Ben has got no answer for Carlos. He's losing time to that Ford Mustang. In fact, no, we'll go to Ben and McGowan, because that is now the closest fight on circuit of a tenth of a second, and they've got a quick Hooper charging through the field, catching them. Oh, McGowan misses his brakes into the back of the Ben, and I tell you what, Hooper could get a 2 for 1 here. He's definitely got one of them.
Yeah, he nearly had both of them there. It was nearly all his Christmases came at once. I only jumped on at the last minute. Ben now trying to recover. He's got to look in his mirrors. He's got a whole load of Mustang in his mirrors now. So, poor old Ben getting beaten up a bit tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly is. But in fact, no, stay with Ben and Hooper to second. Sky and Clouden is 0.2 of a second as Hooper looks into Maggots and Beckett's there. Whoa, that was very, very close there. I thought Hooper was definitely trying to stick the nose.
I'm on board with Clouden. Clouden's going to try it into Beckett's. He goes to the outside for the first part of their section. And I think they touch. Clouden's in the wall. That's going to be big damage. That's going to be one seriously damaged car. That is. Sky seems to live for another day. I don't know. I'm on board with him at the moment. And,
Clouden's bonnet, Kelly. That is.
He's in trouble.
Well, you'll be able to see as the camera pans around on our end. But I tell you what, I just want to go back to that. That looks like Clouden hits the curb and slides into Sky. I don't know why he's trying to overtake at Maggots and Beckett's, and this is that race management, like you said about Clouden earlier, that he just doesn't seem to have this season at the moment, and that's going to hurt him. That promotes Darren Yeo, Mike Matthews, Tobias Hoffer and Skunky up another place. We've lost Viper, so that is a third retirement for Viper. Not only would it's technically minus 30 points, because not only is it minus 5 for retirement anyway, to try and encourage drivers to stay in, but then it's also minus 25 for his third retirement. So that is minus 30 points in a championship that he's just got second place, bearing in mind, where he scored 50 points. So he's come away from Silverstone with 20 points.
Yeah, disappointing, isn't it?
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there you go.
And already, when I look at this, Kelly, when I look at the championship standings, before race 2 points are calculated, 30 points deducted will put him on to 114. That drops him behind Daz and Will Friedman before a point's been counted. So, there we go.
And I know as commentators we always sound so incredibly disappointed when somebody retires, because we want a good show. You know, we've had it in the past here at SimPlay when there was no penalties for retiring, and I get it. Matt gets it. You know, things happen. You get angry and you think, I've had enough of this.
Sorry, Kelly. Viper's had a hardware issue. He ran wide at Maggots and Beckett's, went over the grass, lost force feedback. Steering was trying to steer all the way to the right, parked the car and tried to get it fixed. That's why he stayed in the pit lane, he's saying, for so long. So, hardware issue. It will not count as a retirement, because, you know, hardware problems, it's like having an engine failure in the real world. Chris is saying that Hooper has brake checked Ben. Well, Hooper's got in front of him. Just going to jump to Will Friedman and Dan. That's 0.2 of a second.
Yeah,
interesting. You keep your eyes on that one. I'm going to drop back to Schundelmeier, who's got Daz and Mike Matthews behind him. Darren Yeo having a bit of a better second race than what he did race 1. Obviously, race 1 was kind of ruined by being out of position at the start and got the drive-through. Clouden's in the pits. But Sky's been in the wars with O'Reilly, been in the wars with Jamal Clouden, and now he's got 2 Ferraris hunting him down, and I can hear that big Bentley coming after him. Mike's now got on the back of Darren Yeo, as Darren Yeo had a poor club. And let's see what's going to happen here as they come now through form. Whoa, Darren Yeo loose on the rear there. Had to flick it to the left. It seemed to catch it. Looks up the inside. Darren Yeo looks like he's braking really late there and trying to get it into the corners. What's happening with Dan and Will Friedman at the moment, Cal?
Friedman's had a bit of a run. Dan was on the grass out of the loop, and Dan at Wellington Straight, that hurt him, but he took the inside line, defended the corner, and stays in front. But it was a good run for Will, but he couldn't quite make it stick. Dan is a wily old fox.
Sky! Whoa, Sky sideways through Brooklands, drifted through. Well, there's your buy one, get 2 free, because he's lost 2 places places there. He drifted through Brooklands, and you must wonder, Kelly, is that the damage to Sky Schundelmeyer from the contact with not only O'Reilly but Clouden as well that's got that car a little loose, and he's lost 2 places?
Yeah, I mean, Dan tells me that the Porsche is loose on the back end, and when it goes, it's incredibly hard to catch. So, yeah, a little moment could have turned into a big moment as Friedman, again, in another Porsche, is looking at the back of Dan. And following Dan, you can see the back end of his Porsche very loose, and with a bit of damage and the characteristics of the car, is Schundelmeyer just struggling now.
Possibly so. We're on board with Will Friedman ourselves as we're watching Dan Davis just in front, just a little wide through that last part of club there.
Yeah, these two have been all over the place. They've explored lines on this track that we didn't know existed between them.
Again, look at Dan wide through Abbey a little bit. He's actually seemed to gain a bit of time over Friedman. That's put him out of place, though, breaking in towards Village. That's just allowed Friedman to gain back up.
Quite easy to come across as he has a look into the loop. Dan gives him racing room, more than enough racing room. Dan saw him coming as he got the job done, and they're side by side by the looks of it. Yeah, I've gone back to Carlos. Dan still with the run, had to power out of the corner and manage to just out-drag Friedman down the Wellington straight. And so Dan getting the better exit off the corner where Friedman was compromised by taking an inside line. Carlos is right on top of these two now. So watch out. This is going to turn into a three-way fight as Will looking very racy.
He is looking very racy indeed, and like you say, Mike Matthews has got past Darren Yeo, I'm noting on the timing screen, so that's a position extra for Mike, puts him up into 10th. But Will Friedman at the minute, that Dan and Friedman just pulled away from Carlos there down the National Start Straight. Dan wide over the curb, that could have pinged a track limit warning easily there. It's so easy done at the exit of it's not only Stowe but at Copse Corner as well.
Copse, yeah.
And on the helicopter shots here at Silverstone, we're just seeing Dan Friedman and Carlos, and with Dan seemingly a little slower than Will. It looks like Dan's got better straight line speed, but Will a lot better through the corners. Dan makes one move to the racing line, and Will's gone defensive on Carlos. So Dan made his one move early, but Friedman had gone defensive on Carlos. I'll tell you what, that nearly turned into Friedman up the inside of Dan.
Yes, indeed. These is nip and tuck between these three, but none of them with a clear overtake at the moment. But it's certainly, as I said, nip and tuck. I'm wondering if these lots, certainly the Porsches, are going to be happy to see the pit window and get some tyres changed.
I think you're right. The pit window will be with us in about 2 minutes' time, and Will Friedman seems to have a better middle sector than Dan. That's what I'm going to say. Through Abbey and Farm, this section here, Friedman seems to be more impressive than Dan. Look, he's gained right onto the back of Dan and opened that gap back up to Carlos. And this is where Friedman seems a little stronger. Dan seemed to be better that lap anyway. Dan seemed better in the first sector, and this last sector, I'd say, seems to be where Dan is a little bit stronger. Would that suggest, Kelly, that Dan's got his car set up a little... Friedman's got his car set up, sorry, a little more for corners than straight line speed?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the last time they went round through the loop and onto the Wellington straight, Friedman had a look down the inside. Dan gave him plenty of room, but because he gave him plenty of room, he had all that traction zone, a wider line, excuse me, to get traction down the Wellington straight and managed to drag it back. As I said, really is nip and tuck between these two. Friedman takes a line, Dan has the opposite line. Yeah. It all kind of pans out again, I'm interested to see how quickly these two dive into the pits. I tell you what,
these two must be on the ragged edge of track limits, because they both was over the curbs there on this helicopter shot. Ian Best saying, oh no. I'm not sure what he's saying oh no for.
I agree.
Well, yeah, we'll see what he is saying.
Oh, no.
100%. But Dan then, Sector 1, little better than Will Friedman recently, as Hoopert is now... Have we lost? I think we lost Hoopert, because that, to me, look at Hoopert's connection bar. Well, he's in the pits, but his connection bar is red, so that to me would say that he's had a disconnection and is reconnecting to the server. So I think Hoopert's been disconnected after he was ahead of Ben Rooks. That puts Ben back up to 6th and then promotes everybody behind Hoopert. Hoopert will now have a 2-minute wait time before he can get out. There you go. Look, Chris, where has Hoopert gone? So I think disconnection for Hoopert there.
Yes, indeed. It's looking like it. And the pit window is looming any second now, about 10 seconds to be fair. And we'll have a... Oh, Dan's gone
Dan's off again.
very wide.
Yeah.
He's on the grass. He's on the runoff area, and that's given Friedman and Carlos. Oh, Dan comes back on. He comes on just for the side of Carlos, but Carlos had the inside line, and Dan's let him take it like he should. Oh, I say that, they're side by side as they go onto the Wellington straight. Dan's had a run and has just got his nose ahead, but Carlos has got the inside line for this one, so is it going to be his corner?
Look at the comparisons there, Kelly. When Dan was side by side through Aintree with Will Friedman, Dan powered out, Dan pulled in front. Yeah. Not against the Ford Mustang.
No, that Mustang's quite a car in a straight line. Pit window is open, 10 minutes to get in and do those pit stops.
Well, Dennis Newman is the first man in the pits. We have to ignore Hooper because he had that disconnection, so he'll have to come back round and drive into the pit lane. Skunky's now past Sky Shundlemeyer. In fact, they're battling still, so drivers can come into the pit lane, let's not forget. Ben is now in as well, so this is interesting at the moment. Leaders chose. I'm surprised Dan there with it just opening didn't think of a sneaky dive into the pits.
Yeah, I'm sure Dan thought about it. He's off the track again on the exit of Beckett's there. He just runs wide once again. Dan really struggling. Probably overheating his tyres a little bit now.
Yeah, well, the contact from Friedman was a wallop, but I don't think it was hard enough to do that much damage. Dan knows the car. He's in the car at the moment. Like the car, Dan's rear of his car doesn't look bad. You know, like you can't see really where Friedman's hit him. So, yeah, maybe more... Like you say, has he overheated his tyres, pushing a little bit too much? But this seems to be the way Dan and the Porsche have gone this season, hasn't he? As the first half of the race has gone well, towards that, that latter half of first half of the race, that's where the Porsche seems to have struggled.
Yes, indeed. It's certainly not the Dan we know with these mistakes, and I do think he's wringing the neck of this Porsche. But hey, there's Shundlemeyer doing a good job with this Porsche. Friedman tonight doing a great job with this Porsche. So as we've said before, Matt, we wouldn't drive it. Too loose for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and apart from Hooper, we've got nobody in the pits at the moment, so I'm expecting 7.5 minutes of the pit window. I'm expecting an influx of cars. I would like to get in now. I like a clear pit lane where I can see my marks properly. I'd
be very surprised if we don't see Dan come in, to be fair. If them tyres are buggered, he's not coming in. So
Friedman has.
Yeah, Will Friedman. I think that's a good call for Friedman. I really do. Yeah. I think that's a brilliant call. Dan now behind Carlos. We've got to see what Dan can do with this fight with Carlos. Let's drop back down to Darren Yeo, who's got Skunky on the back of him. Skunky, P9, Ben's pitted, Mike's pitted, Shundlemeyer's been in the pits. This could be interesting to see what happens here.
Yes, indeed. Out front, still the MSA boys are, they're Tardoc's 10 seconds now clear of Carlos. He hasn't got to worry about stealth. He's his teammate, and I think they're just bringing this one home.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Team Audio Sport days with my old teammate Nicky when we Donington Park, was it Donington Park we dominated? Yeah. That was a great race, that was.
I think took race win and second place for Nicky. I think Alfie took his only race win that day. And was really your only competitor, if I remember rightly.
It was a great race, that one.
That fight between Darren Yeo and Skunky ended prematurely. Darren Yeo pitted, so we're back to Dan and Carlos. The only fight on track at the moment. Yeo and Hoffer in the pits. As Will Friedman did his stop, he came out ahead of Darren Yeo, but obviously that's because of the pit stop. He's behind Skunky. But not by a great deal, not by much. He's behind O'Reilly as well. So where is Friedman? Maggots Beckett's just leaving Chapel now, and Skunky's at Stowe. Who's the 271? That is Newman, who's a lap down. So Friedman, 35. Darren Yeo, speeding in the penalty just as he was having such a good second race, Kelly.
Yeah. Poor old Daz. He's another one that the drama seems to find him, doesn't it? Stop and go. Do we know what that was for? Speeding in pit lane, was it?
Speeding in pit lane, yeah. That's pretty stonewall. Dan still not choosing to pit. No.
I'm surprised he didn't dive in the pits then, to be honest.
Massively.
But, he tends to know what he's doing, or he seems to know what he's doing most of the time.
That's what he says, but I look at the track map, Kelly, and I look at the 208. you know, Will Friedman's now at Village, clear track in front of him until O'Reilly, who's up the road a little bit. Dan following Carlos, and you know, depending on lap times. In fact, we can see lap times here. Where's Carlos then? Let's take a look. Carlos did a 59.5. Dan did a 59.3. Will Friedman hasn't yet crossed the line, so it's not updated at the moment. But if Will Friedman's first lap since the pit stop, you know, is a good one, then Dan's just possibly losing time. Although 59.3 is nothing to be sniffed at. The leaders 58.8, 58.3 from Tarlock and Silf.
Yeah, they're in a class of their own again. We thought the Mustangs were going to struggle here, but it's certainly not the case for MSA Racing. They are just streaking ahead, which I'm extremely disappointed about, being that you know, my team is in second place and they're just extending that lead. But it seems to be.
You're telling me you're not an impartial commentator? That's terrible.
Absolutely, of course I am. Of course I am. Yeah.
Oh, apologies.
Impartial.
Will Friedman's first lap was his out lap, so a 2:52 as Dan's getting the run on the outside of Carlos, who went a little deep at Village. Carlos can tuck it back in. Dan's going to try and get the run side by side. They go in towards Aintree now. Dan Davis up past Carlos. Carlos just on the grass a little bit, but Carlos in that Ford Mustang surely going to get the grunt. Dan goes defensive. That's his one move. Carlos is now alongside Dan, and they come together. And Carlos manages to hold on to the slide and goes right around the outside.
Yes, he does great racing from both these. Certainly dramatic. Dan did a great
move,
went out deep.
There we go.
Yeah. Dan went out deep on the Wellington Straight, got that huge traction into the flat left after the loop, and unfortunately couldn't make it stick. Power of that Mustang. It's hard going, isn't it?
Yeah,
for everyone else.
It's a machine, and that's what really allowed Carlos to get onto the back of Dan Davis once again and have a look up the inside. Tardock in the pits. We've got Skunky being caught by Sky here. Skunky didn't repair damage. Darren Yo's in for that stop go. Jamal Clouden's in the pits as well. So this could help Jamal Clouden gain on Darren Yo. Darren Yo's done his stop go, so away he goes. Jamal's not even gone green yet, so that is that one pretty much on. Overtaker and Matt Wright still got to pit, so that's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on. Yes,
Friedman just coming into the last corner, and Dan, still stationary at the pits. So I think Friedman's going to go through quite easily, to be honest.
Yeah,
Dan's still not moved.
I think you're right. Friedman's crossed. If Dan's not green and moving by now, by the time Friedman's crossed the line, then Friedman is ahead. And the worst thing is Dan's got Jamal between him and Friedman now, and here comes the 271. That's Dennis Newman. Will Dennis Newman be in front of Dan? I don't think he will, but Dan's got to clear him and Jamal. There you go, drive-through penalty for Dennis Newman. Dan's not going to have to worry about him any longer. And undercut, clearly pretty powerful, because look at the gap Friedman now has. Or was that the fact that Dan was stuck behind Carlos?
Well, yeah, this is what we were saying, wasn't it, that how much time has Dan actually lost behind Carlos, and should he have followed Freeman in when Freeman pitted?
This is the question. We said that Carlos and Dan were doing 59s, didn't we? Carlos's last lap was a 59.7. Bearing in mind he went deep and got overtaken by Dan. Will Freeman's first lap since his pit stop, 58.4. So
shoulda, coulda, woulda, Matt. Do you know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy to sit here and say
let me ask you a question though, Kelly, because Dan's race management is normally better than I think what he's done today. Do you think the pressure at the moment, I'm not saying that Dan's under pressure, but because he's in a Porsche that's not as strong as the Fords, he's got a bit of pressure trying to defend his championship. Do you think that's caused him to maybe make these misjudgments? Because I think that Dan of old would have either followed Friedman in or pitted first lap behind Carlos.
Yeah, I mean that would have been my thought as well, and I know the guy quite well, I wouldn't say it's the pressure. I think maybe just these mistakes are just the Porsche not doing what it should, and I mean he's trying to take it to the very front, and we know he's a very capable driver. I mean he's the most successful driver in the league, by quite some way. But I think his car choice this year has put him on the back foot, and maybe he's just overdriving the car. He'll say he's got Carlos though. Look, Carlos just come out of the pits. Dan was side by side with side by side.
Undercut though, Kelly. Look at Will Friedman. He's put 4 seconds between him and Dan. Dan's undercut Carlos. So, you know, undercut is the way to go.
Undercut is definitely working here at Silverstone, and I mean Dan only just in front of Carlos, but in front of him, and that's what he needed because he wasn't getting round him. But should he made a different, as I said, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's very easy to be you know, critical of what other people are doing. You know, it's a bit more difficult when you're behind the wheel.
Overtaker's yellow flag in the pit lane. That to me would suggest that Overtaker has had another moment and has returned to the pit lane. Now then, he will not be able to do his pit stop, so Dennis Newman should finish ahead of Overtaker. That could be an 18th place finish for Overtaker. If he fails to return, that could also be retirement.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So Overtaker having a terrible second race, that's for sure. And just over halfway through now, still 25 minutes of action to go, and the front two have checked out, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? There isn't going to be, bar they drop it themselves, they're not going to be caught. It's going to be who's in that third podium position. And at the moment, it's got to be said, Will Friedman is looking like the man that's going to do it.
Well, he's gapped Dan again. Well, I'm not sure if Overtaker returned to pits or actually drove into the pits, because he hasn't done his stop. Pit window's closed. That will be the penalty for not completing the pit stop. But he's also now got a stop-go penalty.
Yeah,
so
it's the whole thing's turned to toast, and it's it's been a horrendous second race for him, and another one he'll want to forget.
Will Friedman, 1.3 off the back of Silf. Could Friedman get that job done on Silf? Just looking at the last lap times, when the timing screen updates me, there we go. Silf I'd actually just came out of the pit lane, so Friedman 58.0, Tardock a 57.9. You know, that is some lap. Dan was 4 tenths off the back of Friedman. Carlos outlap McGowan. McGowan's jumped Ben in the pits, so McGowan's got the jump on Ben. Mike Matthews in the 58.4, so he's matching the pace of Dan Davis out front, although that was 2 laps ago because he's now just on a 59.0. So yeah, interesting at the moment to keep our eyes on. Either way, we know that Overtaker's failed to do his pit stop, so he'll get a 130-second time penalty for that one. He's got to come in and complete a stop-go, so that's an extra 51 seconds for in, 30 seconds and out. Yeah, night to forget.
And a few of them are having it, and you know, it does seem to be. There's a lot of guys having some bad luck this season. It just all seems to fall very nicely for MSA Racing.
Let me counter that argument, Kelly, if I may. You say they're having a lot of bad luck. The guys like Dan and Overtaker, who have been running at the front, have had bad races on their own behalf. You go back to Dan's race 2 at Bathurst, you know, just the car all over the place. He dropped from what was in the top 5, 6 to down to 11th. Overtaker here tonight. He's not done his pit stop. He's then got a stop-go penalty. That's going to put him down the order. You know, we're saying bad luck. Are they creating their own bad luck?
Well, again, Overtaker's been involved in some incidents. You know, earlier when him and was it Newman got together, and you know, and Dan last week at the race 1 at Bathurst, you know, was in trouble through no fault of his own. Again, it's all the rich tapestry of a season, isn't it? You know, and you've got to remember that you even on your worst day, you have to do your absolute best, because that 1 point or a couple of points that you may drag back might be all the difference. And I say it every week. I've been there. You know, I've been there. I've given points away, or you know, given up or whatever. You know, and it's yeah. It's good, you know. It's better.
Dennis Newman will not be Overtaker because Dennis Newman has been disqualified from this race.
Oh dear.
That is for not completing his drive-through penalty.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not great, is it?
So, when we say about drivers creating their own luck,
Yeah, well, there you go. You need to do the penalties.
And I get what you're saying as well. Dan raced one last week. Overtaker's been involved in a few incidents, like 100%. But then at times, when we say that MSA are getting away with this, there's been times where
they're just doing a better job, aren't they?
Well, they are doing a better job. But this is what I mean. Overtaker tonight, he's got one lap before he's disqualified, and then it's no points. Dan's had that race 2 last week where we saw him struggling, and he ended up having that moment out the elbow and caught Sky because Dan was slipping and sliding all over the place, like the Porsche was out of rubber when it turned out it was just struggling. These drivers seem to be making these mistakes that are allowing, yes, they're being caught up in incidents like Dan race 1, Overtaker a bit tonight. Them two tripped over each other at Spa. O'Reilly's had a lot of coming togethers with people. Cloudon's just not been at the races. Mike's been nowhere near. Skunky and Viper have not done a lot. MSA can just cruise and pick up these points that these guys are making mistakes, whether it's through their fault or no fault of their own.
I mean, it's really easy. I mean, it's easy to lead from the front, but you have to be there to start with. Do you know what I mean? You have to get to the front to lead from the front. And they seem to be comfortable. And I'm sure if it was Dan out front or Overtaker or Riley, then again, it's less pressure. All race drivers want to win. Yeah, regardless.
Yeah.
All of them want to win, right? Unfortunately, there's 20 places and not everyone can win. And it's the difference between having a race brain and looking at the bigger picture. Dan's one of those that's quite good at doing that, and it's an Alonso type attitude where you just get the best out of the day and you put a championship together. You can't win every race, but some drivers think or believe that they can, and will take silly moves, be impatient, do the wrong thing, and end up in trouble, or push the limits of what their car can do, and again end up in trouble. You have to put a consistent season together to win a championship. Now, as I said, if you're the fastest man on track, that's all well and good, and you're out in front with 8 seconds in hand, like Tardok is at the moment. He's just running his own race, taking his own pace. His pace seems to be fast, but it's he's dictating that pace. And racing is just about as much about a state of mind as being quick.
You say about Dan in the past is not necessarily won the race, but done what he needs to take the points race. This of Tordok at the minute and Sylph reminds me very much of Dan last season. Lex is pretty dominant in Dan's hands, kind of ran away with the championship.
Yeah.
He's not really been pointsy himself, as in we use the word pointsy in terms of to reflect on how Dan normally builds a championship by being points. He's not really been that this season, has he? That's the problem. Overtaker completes that stop-go penalty. Sadly for him, it will slowly be 17th place. He will be getting that 132nd penalty for missing the end. We're watching O'Reilly on the back of Tobias Hoffer here in the Bentley. O'Reilly having a look up the inside to Brooklands. But yeah, Dan's not really built that championship this year as normal, has he?
No, and I mean, both of us know him really well, but we can't get in his head. What pressure is there with being, the current champion, being the most successful here, as O'Reilly puts a move on Hoffer and gets that done into the start-finish straight, and I say gets it done, as they go into Cops, because everyone knows you can't pass at Cops.
Yeah. Funny that.
O'Reilly's got the job done and is away off up the road. He's got Schundelmeyer. He's got a few seconds to catch up to Schundelmeyer. So let's see how O'Reilly gets on. But yeah, we don't know the pressures of being, everyone wants to knock the top dog off, don't they?
Yeah. Indeed, they do, and I think he's been well and truly knocked off here, to be fair, this season. The Sylph and Tardok especially have done a stellar job. Carlos and McGowan both lapping 4th and 5th. McGowan's dropped Ben. Ben's not really in this race anymore, and there's not really anything happening at the moment. So this gives us perfect opportunity, I suppose, Kelly, to move over to what was announced earlier today. Literally, just before we came on air. I'm trying to find it now. PN Motorsport put it on the Discord. Can't find where.
Yeah.
Rennsport came out last December and is obviously the next big thing in terms of sim racing. A lot of the top sim teams use it. The ASL R1, the big Saudi-backed championship with the top sim racing teams of Williams Esports, Team Redline Racing with Max Verstappen, Apex Racing, all competing. They race on that. It's been announced today that it's coming to console.
Excellent. I presume on PS5 and Xbox.
Yeah, on both.
And sorry, tell me again. What's it called?
Rensport.
Rensport. How are we spelling that?
REN. Hang on, I'm trying to do it myself.
Right.
RENN Sport.
Okay. And I believe that there's a huge selection of cars, is there not? But not a huge selection of tracks yet.
Small cars, small tracks, but it only came out in December of last year.
Sure.
Now, what cars they've got is a handful of GT3s. Not overly bothered about them. The two that perk my interest, or three, maybe four. Yeah. We've got the Praga to do a Praga Cup, which is a nice small little car.
Yeah.
The Toyota touring car, which I think could be an interesting one.
Yeah.
The BMW hypercar and the Porsche hypercar, with more tracks coming soon and more cars coming soon. Obviously, it's a brand new game, so stuff will continue to be developed as it goes on and on and on. But this is, I'm just looking at it on Twitter here, people asking about what's coming, and Rensport immediately responded saying many things are being developed as we speak. So there's lots more to come with it, and is coming out this year. That could add to the console world. When you think of the console in terms of what sim games you have to offer on console, you've got this. And that's really about it. Formula One and Gran Turismo, as good a game as they may be, they're not full sim. So if you're looking for that sim experience, they're not going to bring you what ACC will bring you. We know that Project Cars 2 is dead in the water. We know it will be dead in the water because EA have decided to pull. They've pulled the plug on it. And Project Cars 3 was a disaster. With Rensport coming to console, that's huge in terms of, we was promised a touring car game, never got it.
No.
Le Mans Ultimate promised to be special. It's only PC. We know iRacing and R-Factor will always only be PC, but the fact that Rensport have gone, let's open this up to everybody, is massive.
Yes, and as much as we like ACC, there is still many levels of ACC that aren't that user friendly. Certainly, from our point of view as commentators and broadcast facilities, there needs to be more elements. And I wonder if this Rensport has got some more of those broadcast elements that we can do with, to make a good show of it, And I mean, let's face it. What ACC they say is as close to driving a GT3 car as you can get, right? As realistic as you can get, right? So that realism, apart from it hurting when you crash and having to pay for it, that realism is only going to be small tweaks. And improved graphics, improved gameplay, so on and so forth. The tracks are the tracks. I've always said I would like to see a sim where you could download any car, any track, and race that. But I think from a full package of a sim racing game, that's what we need. More broadcast facilities. I'm sure there's a dozen other things that we could put our heads together and would want to see in a proper sim. But hopefully this is the future, Matt.
I think what it gives us console users, especially, Kelly, is it gives us an option.
Yes.
Doesn't it? Because at the minute, if you're a console player, and like SimPlay Motorsport, we've been console for coming up to 5 years, as Overtaker's just got a drive-through penalty. If it wasn't for a qualifying ban, you'd be parking that car up and retiring it.
I'd be setting fire to it. But
exactly. Yeah. But as a console user, Kelly, options are limited. So the fact that Rensport, and like Chris says, is this one that's better than iRacing? This is the one that is tipped to rival iRacing that R-Factor couldn't do. So if it's tipping a game that is at the forefront of sim racing, to get that on console is just huge news for a console driver to then go, I've got options now. You know, and to channels like ours, Kelly, as well, is, you know, we can sit here and say, right, because there's only a small selection of GT3 cars on Rennsport, we're going to stick to doing the GT3s, which is what SimPlay is known for on ACC. But we're going to bring you a Praga Cup. We're going to bring you a Hyundai Touring Car Series. We're going to bring you a Hypercar, BMW and Porsche Championship, because we've now got these options of doing this.
When do we believe it's coming to console?
They say on their Twitter, it says 2025. When somebody said, do we have an exact date, it just says later this year. So it's, you know, I'm optimistic in the fact that I've read their tweet. They're applying to everybody. So it gives me confidence in the fact that, unlike the touring car game, you heard nothing from Motorsport Games in terms of what's happening with it. With this, they're immediately answering back, and the hype is there, and they're going, right, hype's there, let's respond, because the guys want to know about it. O'Reilly's got a yellow flag. Hoffer is now in front of him again. Not sure what's happened to O'Reilly. Car looks in the same state it was as it bunny hops over the sausage curb. We're going to keep our eyes on Dan Davis, though, because Carlos got within a second.
Carlos is getting close,
But this now gives drivers, you know, this gives drivers, leagues, console users the option of going, F1's not really a sim, GT7's not really a sim.
No.
Well, okay, ACC, Assetto Corsa Evo got announced. That's only PC. There's no date on that coming to PlayStation 5. That's out on PC. Nothing for console. Rennsport now kind of gives you that option of going, okay, let's have a look.
You would think it would be sensible marketing to, if they're hyping it up now, you would think it would be sensible marketing for it to be not too far away. Let's say,
I reckon summer,
May or
August
June or something. You know?
I reckon in August.
Well, as I said, you know, you would think if they're trying to start hyping it now, then, you know, you want to put a buzz through the sim community, don't you?
The one thing I'd say, Kelly, and if anybody from Rennsport or has stuff to do with Rennsport is on the stream and listening, please do one thing for us console users. Please do one thing, and this is a proper plea. Do not rush the game. Do not be like EA Sports and F1, where it's rushed and it's came out, and F1 from 2020 to now has dipped. Please be a game that is like ACC. People want to play it. People want to go to your game. People want to use your platform. Please add to it like ACC has. We know there's a big update coming this year for ACC. Maybe a couple more cars. Maybe a few more tracks. I think this is possibly one of the more exciting news since Motorsport Games promised us the touring car game, especially here in Britain, and didn't deliver. And what they did with Le Mans Ultimate is Le Mans Ultimate's been out a couple of years now, but it's only now starting to be good. It was unfinished when they released it. So Rennsport, please, take your time. If it doesn't come out till August, September, fine. Make sure the game is ready to be released. Don't rush it, is what I would say.
Well, now you've said that, Matt, obviously they're listening, because we are the premier console league in the world.
Damn right, damn right we are.
Absolutely, and they will be listening, Matt. And now that you've spoke that, there'll be a big meeting at the Rennsport HQ tomorrow morning, and they'll be saying, Matt Duffin said.
If me and Kelly Davis are not there, yellow flags, Kelly. Yellow flags talk about. O'Reilly looks like he's returned to pit lane. That could be a retirement with 6 minutes to go. Sky's had a yellow flag as well. He's not been overtaken by Tobias Hoffer. Dan's extended that gap back up to 1.9 seconds. That's kind of come to an end. It kind of, for the first time this season, we've got a quiet period.
Yeah, and it feels like the first time for the season, doesn't it?
There we go. Clouden has spun again as well, we're seeing in chat.
It's been all action this season. This is about the only time we've had 10-15 minutes without something going on, something very close. So it's great to see. Again, just back to the Rennsport thing. If the guys at Rennsport do want to invite me and Matt in for a consultation on how to get it right, then please feel free, give us a bell. We'll happily sort you out and straighten you up on a few things.
Because my God, like you say, if this is a PC game, Kelly, you look at iRacing, you look at some of the cameras and broadcasting capabilities on iRacing. If you can bring that on Rennsport, similar to that, for console users, my days.
I'm liking what Rob Smith is saying about Rennsport should sponsor SimPlay. You know, like you look around this game and you see Coach Dave and Fanatec and all these things all over there. I could just see it, couldn't you? Especially Donny 100%. On the SimPlay straight.
Oh, 100%. You know, get Rennsport to include SimPlay on some of their tracks so that as you drive around, it doesn't say Elf there, it says SimPlay Motorsport. And, by the way, we have sponsors. Could you put Design Manchester here and Audio Sport there and blah, 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 you know? It'd look phenomenal. I
can see that.
I could as well. Dan's got 2 seconds over Carlos. It's kind of done here. O'Reilly's in the pits. He'll have to come back out to not get that quali ban at the end of this one. But you know, look, hey, let's see. We know that Rennsport can rival. If that's going to if that's tipped to a rival iRacing, I'm excited for it coming to the console because it should then bring us other options.
One thing's for sure, Matt. I've been a gamer all my life. First generation gamer I am, and I'll tell you one thing: everything evolves. So, you know, the future's got to be somewhere, and why not now? And
for those who's new to the channel, back when me and Kelly first did a bit of commentary, or back when me and Kelly did some commentary on Project Cars 2 before it came to an end, because we've not been in the box since Project Cars.
No.
We'd done a couple of test races that we'd streamed on ACC, and what we'd said was, if you could have the physics and drivability of ACC, the graphics of and camera angles of Gran Turismo, but the broadcasting capability of Project Cars 2, you'd have the ultimate sim game out there for console.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we can now knock Project Cars 2 and say, when you think of it back to this.
It's old now, though, isn't it? You know,
it's outdated. It's outdated.
Yes,
you know, we can't slate Project Cars 2. It's done us.
No.
It's brought us many a good race. But compared to ACC, it's outdated. What it still has is a better broadcasting capability. And for those of you who didn't know what Project Cars 2 broadcasting was, Kelly and me would sit in the comms box. What you would see. So I would be the commentator. Kelly would be my TV director, is what they class it as. And what we'd see and talk about is whatever Kelly would show us. A bit like in the real world. You've not got Martin Brundle and Crofty picking their cameras and choosing their cameras. They're talking on what the director sees. And that's what we had. And it made it brilliant. Because at the moment, you know, I do like this one in terms of you watched a fight of Dan and Friedman earlier. I was watching Hoffer, Daz and Mike. And we can get them little intricate things there, and it's nice. But with Project Cars 2, you know, we had the nice little timing thing across the bottom. We had the track map come up. We could see the speedo with fuel. You just had little things that made it better.
And I mean, I said this before. I did apply for The Apprentice, and I did actually get an email, but I didn't go any further. I got invited to the first interviews, which I think most people do if you apply for it, to be honest. Like, you know, but I thought in my head as a business idea to get a sim game built which is console based, absolutely for the sim community, as in leagues like ours. Now, if you imagine what the power that we don't have, and we've had some criticism about missing fights on track. Now, we can't see it all. We literally can't see it all. Like a TV studio, we've all got this picture of a TV studio and you know, people behind a director's room where they got, you know, you're behind a desk of 50 different cameras and multiple screens in front of you. Imagine that power in a game, you know, that we could be viewing multiple screens, you know, putting picture in picture on the screen for people and being able to see these things. The power of replay as well, you know, we've got a replay, but not really, you know, and it's all a bit clumsy and a little bit hard to work with, you know, to have those powers to be able to broadcast like an actual studio. Oh, imagine that would be amazing.
Incredible. Jamie Brazy says, add the pit lane mechanics from Project Cars 2 and it would be perfect. Disagree with that one. Disagree with that one.
Daft Punk, you mean?
No, not. I think he's on about, you know, where you could get one engine damage in pit, down and out, and the glitch. Disagree with that. I think what we have is brilliant. Hawkeye, my Fanatec Direct Drive kit gets delivered on Tuesday. Brilliant. Hawkeye, are you in the Discord? If so, who are you in the Discord? And Rob Smith, Project Cars 2, more cars, more tracks with ACC physics. Yes, please. And that's really what we ask for in a sim game. don't get me wrong, ACC is fantastic. They worked with the GT World Challenge guys and worked with the real life people on them series to get this as close to it as possible. They gave us Porsche Cup, Super Trofeo, Ferrari Challenge, BMW M2s, GT4s, the British tracks, the GT Intercontinental tracks. We've got the GT America tracks. We'd love Asia to come. I think that's a big one to get, the Asia tracks. And yes, I agree that ACC on console is one of the best games in terms of how good these cars are. If that was Project Cars, where you had 4 touring cars, you had LMP cars, you had Clio Cups, you had Ginetta Juniors, you had all these kind of cars. Just imagine all them. Just imagine a Ginetta GT5 series with this realism. Imagine a touring car series with this realism. We go into we did the Daytona race, didn't we? Daytona 24 hours. And we did GTE and LMP1. Imagine LMP1 or Hypercar now with this. Oh,
mate, the
Tordot's finished.
Just come across the line. Yes, he did. To be fair, the clock just run out, and really just run out about 2 seconds before he crossed the line. So it was Tordot with the win. Just coming across the line now is going to be in second place. That's the way they've been most of the time. Friedman caught a bit of the gap back up, but he's going to take third place. Dan is going to be a respectable fourth. Carlos, a couple of seconds behind in fifth. McGowan is going to be the best of the rest in sixth place as he just comes around the last couple of corners to finish off the lap and take the checkered flag. So that'll be McGowan in sixth place. Good strong run from him. Ben just behind for seventh. Harris just behind that for eighth. Mike Matthews and behind a lap car by the looks of it. He's coming round the last corner now, going to take a strong ninth place. Skunky, probably not what he wanted, but he finishes in a higher position than normal, 10th place. Sky Schundermeyer is now coming round the last corner to be your 11th place man. Ones that have already taken the flag is Darren Yeo, Clouden and Matt Wright. They've already taken the flag because they're a lap down. Hoffer is probably your last man on the lead lap then. Darren Yeo's in the pits already. And Hoffer in that big bad Bentley takes the last corner for the last time. And he is going to cross the line in 12th position. Not a bad result for the big car, really. And, he's going to come across the line now for that. As I said, Daz is in 13th, Clouden 14th, Matt Wright 15th, Kieran O'Reilly 16th, Overtaker ends up 17th and 130 points. And if he had any more points taken away from him, he'd be going back to Australia. Hubert, 19 laps down, is your 18th, is classified as 18th, Viper classified as 19th. Dennis Newman disqualified 20th.
So apologies about missing the end of the race, but me and Kelly was a bit carried away there. Rob's going to say we want Le Mans. Mike saying fully custom liveries with our own graphics would be amazing. Jamie Brazier, more meant the mechanics stood around. So Jamie was on about Daft Punk. There we go. Either way, pretty dull end to a Silverstone race. We are going to jump into the Discord call, and we are going to try and see if we can get an interview. So we'll be back momentarily. Is we get ourselves into the Discord chat and we can speak for the first time to some of the drivers. Kelly, bit of a dull end to that one, I'd say. It was pretty much done with 20 minutes left to spare. Guys, get your voting for driver of the day in the chat. Type it in the comments who you think is driver of the day. Kelly, final thoughts and your driver of the day.
My driver of the day. Come back to me on that driver of the day for a minute. Final thoughts. As I say, a bit of a dull end to that race. They can't all be stunning races, but we've had some good racing here in the earlier first sprint race, and it's been a good meeting, absolutely. But it's been a chaotic season, and I think the rest of the season is still going to be that way. We go to Kyalami next week. Again, some more interesting races, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Did you have a driver of the day, or?
I'm struggling, to be honest. Have you not put a poll out?
I haven't put a poll out now.
I mean, Tardok was my first choice, but then he kind of, rushed off into the distance, and race one wasn't that great.
Yeah.
If I say Dan, I'm going to be biased, but he has had some solid results tonight. Yeah, I think Will Friedman, to be honest with you. I'm going to go for Will Friedman.
I was just about to say, first and a third.
First and a third. Drove that Porsche well. Nice and, the right call on strategy. Will Friedman for me.
Yeah, it's hard to look past Will Friedman for myself as well. I think Will Friedman's done a cracking job. Nobody yet commenting in the chat on who they think is driver of the day. But solid night here at Silverstone. Race 1, full of drama and chaos once again. We can run you through quickly the championship order. This is before drop scores and obviously provisional before stewarding inquiries go in. Now, one thing I will say to these pro drivers is please do not hesitate to get a ticket in. It is vitally important that if we want this clean driving to happen and the silly incidents to not, it's vitally important you get them in. But it's Silf who leads the way, 35 points clear from now Tordok. Hoopert is now 71 behind, so that internet disconnection for him has cost him time there. Dan Davis moves up to 4th place, with Ben Ruck moving up to 5th ahead of Overtaker, who had a pretty much forgetful race too. Obviously, this is pre-drop score, so we will work these out off air. Michael Harris is P7 with O'Reilly in 8th. Sky Schundelmeyer is 9th with Matt Wright 10th. Mike Matthews 11th. Jamal Clouden 12th, Patrick Ledger 13th, Skunky 14th, Will Friedman 15th, Tobias Hoffer 16th, then it's Viper, Yo, Carlos McGowan, Leach, O'Brien, Co, Newman, Bates, with Yako, Richie, Colin, Croyce and Pocket not scoring. So far this season, in fact, they haven't even turned up for a race this season. MSA lead the way, 152. They extend their gap once again over Team Audio Sport, 252 points. And it's Greasy Bandits, 3rd, SimPlay Racing, catching them, though. They're only 26 behind. In 4th, Team FBR P5 with Old School Racers, 6th. Quantum Motorsport, 7th. Team SPR, 8th. Scuderia Tempesta from Effect Motorsport and Red Rum Racing. Xbox have already won the console battle, not that it was a battle, and Porsche lead the way, 168 points clear of McLaren. That's becoming a 2-horse fight in that manufacturers. It doesn't really mean anything. I just enjoy a good stat.
You certainly do.
Speaking of stats, that was Ford's 11th win. They go tied with Chevrolet and Lexus this season. Is there anybody in the Discord chat? No, there isn't. So, no. Kelly, I believe that's just going to give us one last thing to say is Tuesday night, Dan Davis will be back in the box for the GT4 race at Kyle Army, midway stage of the season there. Pro-Ams will be back with Alexa Marshall on Wednesday night, and myself and Kelly Sweet and Sticky will be back in your box.
Yep, for sure.
On Thursday evening. Halfway stage of this 12-week season, and it's becoming an interesting one, that is for sure. Kyle Army next. Warm but wet could be the weather. Let's keep our eyes on what will happen. It's Kelly, been a pleasurable night once again.
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. And looking forward to Kyle Army. Join us all week, as you said, as Matt just said, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Join us live. We love to watch, love for you guys to be watching us live and to get involved in the chat. We love to hear from you.
Indeed we would. As always, drop a like and subscribe to this channel if you are new, as well as hitting that bell to be notified when we go live. In that description, check out our fantastic sponsors, Design Manchester and Audio Sport. Links are in there to go and check them out on Facebook and Audio Sport's website, as well as head over to Audio Sport's YouTube channel and drop a subscribe over there. But for the final time this season, Kelly, it's been an absolute blast on the home of British motorsport, but we head to South Africa, the only track in the African continent on ACC, and it's going to be an absolute belter. We'll see you there. Goodbye.
Good night.